The National Prosecuting Authority says it's unfortunate that Jacob Zuma's lawyers will ask for a postponement today. The former president's arms deal corruption trial is meant to continue in the Pietermaritzburg High Court, but he's still in the hospital for observation. There's a big police and army presence outside the court this morning. The NPA has confirmed to us that Zuma's legal team will ask for this latest postponement via a virtual link. Prosecutors, however, say they're ready to argue. Zuma's special plea, which includes the call to have lead prosecutor Billy Downer removed, it's understood Zuma's lawyers may well have to file an affidavit by a doctor treating him. The former president faces some 16 counts of fraud, corruption, racketeering and money laundering in connection with the country's controversial multi-billion rand arms deal in the 90s.
Well, it seems the police are taking no chances at court today, with the Nyalas and army trucks barricading the entrance. They were expecting scores of Jacob Zuma supporters, but all for a virtual court sitting today. Well, Thulasizwe Simelane, a senior anchor, is monitoring things for us outside court. Thulas, thanks so much for joining us. Why the big police presence today?
Well, Annika, it's simply a matter of not leaving anything to chance. It is prevalent across Pietermaritzburg. You see this police presence. And our sense is that the police officers who are in uniform and who are in marked vehicles, as well as the SANDF members in rattle vehicles on the streets of Pietermaritzburg, are merely the tip of the iceberg. We do suspect that there's a whole lot more of the police contingent who are in plain clothes and in unmarked vehicles, as well as the various intelligence organizations across Pietermaritzburg. You clearly get a sense of heightened sense of security and consciousness about security because of the events of the last 4 weeks. And Pietermaritzburg, you'll remember, was the epicenter of the violence and looting that took place. But also you heard ahead of this sitting today that there were plans by supporters of former President Jacob Zuma to descend on Pietermaritzburg. Not sure what the numbers were going to be, but they certainly wanted to make their presence felt. With that, then, of course, it becomes a crowd control situation, with the result that the police have roped in their colleagues from various provinces to come and beef up, particularly the public order policing component of it all. If I can share an anecdote with you, Aneka, the hotel where we are staying here in Pietermaritzburg also happens to be used by the SAPS for those members who are not from around Pietermaritzburg. I mean, when we were making our way here in the early hours of the morning, the logistics of seeing those SAPS members coming out of their rooms and going into vehicles that were parked outside, and the bags that they were carrying, and those rifles that they use to fire rubber bullets, and seeing those scenes at about 4:30 a.m. to 5 a.m. is extraordinary. It just showed you that they were preparing themselves. A short while ago, there was a police chopper that was hovering above the skies of Pietermaritzburg. The road in front of the court here is dramatically sealed off, with barbed wire. And it's just rolled out and rolls upon rolls of barbed wire. It's impossible for anyone to really come through unless they want you to come through here. So tight control over the situation. Well, it was all in preparation that we were going to hear arguments in the Section 1061H application by former President Jacob Zuma for the prosecutor Billy Downer to be removed on the grounds that he doesn't have title to prosecute. That's not going to happen. Let's find out what exactly is going to happen. The NPA's Mthunzi Maga joins me now for that conversation. Mthunzi, so you and I spoke yesterday, and after that there was a statement that came from the office of the Chief Justice that talked about the matter proceeding by way of a virtual hearing. It's difficult to misunderstand what it meant, but to the extent that there would be one or two people who are confused, what is the status of today's hearing?
Good morning to us and good morning to viewers of eNCA. What is going to happen is that the legal team of Mr. Zuma are going to make a substantive application for the matter to be postponed because he is hospitalized. However, the affidavit will have to be submitted with details of the state of health of the former president by the doctor who examined him. We will then assess that affidavit as the prosecution, and the judge himself will assess that affidavit and the contents thereof and verify medically the situation that the former president is facing, after which he will make a ruling whether the matter is going to be postponed or not. It's not a given that the matter will be postponed because it is a substantive application. That means that there should be reasons that substantiate the reason why the matter cannot be heard. But Mr. Zuma will himself not be in court today because he is ill-disposed. It's going to be a virtual hearing that starts at 10 o'clock. So we hope that it's not going to be a long process, but there's no date yet that has been agreed upon because the judge did indicate that in September he is going to be occupied, so his diary is already full for September. We are looking at a month beyond September.
So how do you as prosecutors prepare for such an eventuality? Because clearly a lot turns on whether or not the substantive application is backed up by, the affidavit of the medical officer who attended to Mr. Zuma. And my understanding is that you won't oppose if indeed it is done in that way. But if in case it's not done in that way, how do you prepare for this, where you might have to argue against this postponement? Are you prepared for both, conceding to the postponement, or are you also prepared as well to, if need be, to argue against it?
We are inclined to agree to the postponement because he is hospitalized. But once we are not satisfied with the contents of the affidavit, we may argue otherwise. And as I said to you, that it is not a given. The judge will have to assess the contents of that affidavit, and if he is satisfied that there is a good cause why the matter cannot proceed, then he will grant that postponement.
Lastly, Mthunzi, initially when this matter was set down for pre-trial and the actual trial date, it was initially set down for at least 2 court terms. My sense is we've lost the first term of court without much really happening other than a formal plea being entered by Mr. Zuma, and then this special plea for the removal of prosecutor Billy Downer. You now mentioned that the Judge Piet Koen, has indicated that in September he's occupied. What's your thinking as the NPA about the timelines of this trial? Are you concerned that they are being completely thrown off?
This trial has gone through quite a protracted hurdle. And it's concerning for us that we've lost the 2 terms. And it's unlikely that it's going to be September, so we have to look beyond September. We can't commit to time frames and timelines at this stage because the parties are still engaging with each other in terms of the date when the matter is to be postponed. And given the uncertainty of Mr. Zuma's state of health, which we will only be privy at 10 o'clock as to the condition of his illness, we are really taken aback by the situation. But to us, this is a situation that is beyond our control. It's circumstances that could not be prevented. We are where we are, and it is what it is. We'll have to play by the ear and see what happens at 10 o'clock.
All right, Mthunzi Maga speaks on behalf of the National Prosecuting Authority, also special advisor to the NDPP, Shamila Batoyi. So that's how it's looking. We are now building up to that 10 o'clock virtual hearing. You wouldn't say, Annika, from the physical activity around the court, that actually nothing really will be happening inside courtroom A here at the High Court in Pietermaritzburg. But nevertheless, it's the kind of preparation and precautions that have to be taken either way.
Thanks so much, Thulasizwe Simelane, for standing by for us with Mthunzi Maga from the NPA. That virtual hearing set to kick off at 10 o'clock this morning.